And we are back with another episode of From the Rafters. Sam and I are here recording on Wednesday, January 26th. And the Celtics have won back-to-back games. Not only have they won back-to-back games, but Sam, they've won their last two games by a combined total of 82 points. And obviously, it's the Kings without De'Aaron Fox, and it's the Wizards who are struggling right now. But I know we have different points of views on, oh, you're supposed to beat these teams, blah, blah, blah. But you beat two teams by 82 plus points, and that's a big deal. Like, that's just good basketball, right? Like, no matter who those teams are, 82 points in two games is kind of absurd.
Yeah, it's about time they started doing what they're supposed to do, right? Two fantastic wins after a horrible loss on Friday, which I think we recorded before that game, so we didn't get to talk about that one either. But I'll start
Mhm.
there and move forward. That was brutal.
Yeah.
You're up 11. That was a game that I felt like was done too, which is not something I typically feel with this team, but Portland's like bad. And they were really starting to run away with it early in the fourth quarter, which is something they haven't done a lot this year. You know, finishing off games. And I mean, I
Yeah.
guess they still didn't do it because they only scored 5 points for the rest of the game, 7 minutes to go, and they lose.
Hmm.
Again, couldn't rebound, didn't do that well. But then they bounced back really well against Washington, a team that gave them the business in two games before. First one was at the Garden. That one I was at. That was brutal. They didn't close that one very well. And then they lost in double overtime in Washington. And that's a game they win if Montrezl Harrell doesn't make a half court buzzer beater at the half. So
Yeah.
I mean, these still should have closed, but take it with a grain of salt, I guess. And
Hey, I
then
mean, Wizards are a mess right now. You saw what happened to them last night. Oh
yeah,
boy.
well, it's nice seeing it happen to someone else, right? And then of course the Kings, De'Aaron Fox did not play. However, the Celtics didn't screw around, which is good. That's
Yeah.
also a change.
Up by
Um,
60 at one point.
yep.
Crazy.
And the there's two common denominators in these wins. First is Jason Tatum, who's played much better since that Florida. I was gonna say Florida game. I don't know. He's missing 20 straight threes.
And his
The
his
20th.
three-point percentage has jumped from 31 to 33% in 2 games. That's ridiculous
Oh,
at this
good.
stage of the
Keep going.
season. That's
Keep
absurd.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's all of a sudden making threes again, which is great. And what do you have? 36 yesterday. So he had 51 and then 36. So that's
87.
8, 87. So that's almost 44, 43 and a half
Quick
a
math.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
good for him. And then Marcus
Mhm.
Smart's back in the lineup, which is always a good thing. His plus minus
Yes.
is through the roof, which is just subjective, but it's nice having him back. He plays, harder than probably anybody. And he didn't even have to score yesterday for them to play well, which is
Mhm.
what people kind of want. Like people are like, oh, like he didn't score. Like who cares? But like, all right, he
Then
didn't
don't complain
score.
when he takes shots.
What
Like,
did he take
what?
3 shots yesterday?
Yeah, 3.
And what was one of them? Maybe a three
Yeah,
or
I don't
two.
remember.
I,
I
I
don't remember.
know, I know he didn't take all threes because I know he drove a couple times.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, and Josh Richardson said this after the game too, they've played 14 games this season with that starting lineup, right? Of Marcus, Jalen, Jason, Al, and Rob. And you don't like the injury standpoint at this point because you shouldn't be a 500 team regardless. But they're 9-5 in those games. That's a 52 in pace, and they have the best net rating out of any 5-man lineup in the NBA. And it's not close. It's not close in the slightest. It's like 8 points better than second place. Like that lineup is good, and it's good because they defend. It's good because Jason and Jalen can score when they have an actual playmaker. And the people saying Marcus aren't isn't a point guard, I don't get what you're watching anymore because he's very
L
clearly is a
take.
point guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even an L take. It's just like it doesn't make sense. Like I don't know what you're watching, and you can make an argument that like they need a better point guard to be an elite team, and I mean maybe sure
I mean,
whatever,
we've
but
talked about that before. We've compared him
yeah,
to point guards on championship teams, but
yeah,
typically, besides the Warriors, and we talked about this before, this exact thing I'm about to say, the point guard is typically not the guy on the championship team. So
it's an
those
important piece
players
though.
have been better than Marcus Smart, but you don't have to have that guy be the best guy on the team.
No, but you do have to have that guy.
Oh
It
yeah.
it doesn't have to be your best player, but you have to have someone, and I think KJ brought this up a long time ago. Having a guy to average 7 assists is like the marker of an elite basketball team, and maybe that's true because you look at past champion Steph Curry. I don't know if he had 7 assists. He might have, but
Draymond might have.
obviously Draymond definitely probably did. Kyle Lowry hit that mark when the Raptors won in 2019. LeBron James obviously is going to hit that mark. I don't know if Giannis did, but they had, Drew Holiday, who's a really good playmaker at the point guard position. You even look at, the Bulls, like Scottie Pippen was a severely underrated playmaker. Like all these championship teams throughout history, the Mavericks had Jason Kidd, Miami Heat of old still had LeBron James. Um, the Pistons had Chauncey Billups back in the day. The Lakers might be the anomaly because I don't know how many assists Kobe averaged, but you need a point guard nowadays, and you need a point guard that can dish out assists. And Marcus Smart has shown flashes of being that. And when the entire starting lineup is healthy, he can be that. And I think the real key is he's not playing with Dennis Schroeder anymore, which is good because Dennis Schroeder can be effective if he doesn't play with Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jalen Brown at the same time. And Udoka finally realized that. And look at that. They won by what, 52, 53 the other day? Like, there's a formula. There,
All
there's a
right.
formula there, right?
Now, I will say this. There is another team that has not played with 4 of their top guys for more than 12 games, and they're first in the Eastern Conference. So I really don't want to hear too much about that. But I do agree to an extent where it helps to have those guys on the floor. And
Mhm.
they've played probably their best basketball when they've got their ideal starting lineup out there. They've been
And
able to rotate properly, and Udoka is getting better at the rotations for sure. Go ahead.
yeah, and Tatum was asked about that sort of thing. He's like, "Do you guys think you're a team that needs that?" And he was like, "Yeah." And that, like, whatever it is, what it is. Like,
Wait, needs
obviously,
what?
they have the talent to beat her. Well, it was like, "Do you guys feel like you need to get this chemistry up?" Or I don't even know if that was the right wording, but he's just basically asked like, "Do you feel
Do you
like you
think
need
like your
that
team's
fully lined
better
up?"
off if you have like all your best players playing? Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I would say that. Yeah, you could say
My
that.
well, no, my point is you bring up the Miami Heat, and I don't think
Yeah.
that's necessarily a difference. I just think like
Well, it
people
is
can
a
laugh.
difference because
Well, people
Lowry's
can
new.
laugh at Heat culture, but that's a real thing. Like, the mindset of everybody in Miami, like, the Celtics don't have that. Like, and it's whatever. I'm not, like, bashing on the Celtics. It's just there's a different mentality within that organization, and I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. It's like Jimmy Butler came in and he completely reverted them back to that Heat mentality. Like, and it's hard to argue against it, right? You look at everybody up and down the roster, they have like 5 guys on minimum contracts putting up ridiculous numbers. Tyler Hero is stepping up. Kyle Lowry fits that mentality to a T. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are, forming that. It's just a different mindset down there. And it's not a bash at or a knock on the Celtics. Like, they're different than any other, organization in the league right now. Like, that it's just a fact.
Miami is.
Yeah, that culture down there is it's and you can see it in other places. Like, obviously Golden State has a certain culture, but the specific, makeup of what makes Miami so successful is very, very it's Miami. Like, it's Heat culture, and that you can like I said, you can laugh at, "Oh, Heat culture, that's stupid," or whatever. It's true. That's just what it is, and that's what helps them be successful because they have that mindset, and not a lot of teams do.
Yeah, the Celtics need to pick up on it. You know what's funny? I was thinking about how great Jimmy Butler would be like as a Celtic, and
Yeah,
then I thought like, wow, they pay him a lot of money.
they
I,
do,
I
but I
I
mean,
would be
hey,
so I don't know if irate is like the right thing, but I don't think that's a good contract, even for them. Like
I think
y-
you're
y-
tripping
well,
if you
right
don't think
now
it's a good
this year it
contract.
might be, but what's he making? 50 million. I don't think anybody should be making 50 million a year unless you're like Giannis right now.
Well,
I don't think it's worth it. But
if they win
the
a
argument
championship,
can
it's
be
worth it.
made that all right, that's what they're committing to. That's their
Yeah,
guy, and they've got all these other guys
he is
locked
their
in too.
guy.
So pay them what you want. Oh, I don't like paying anybody over like
I
$35 million
mean, bubble or not, he led them to a championship, like a finals at the
at
very least. He led
finals.
them to a finals, yeah, and there's an easy argument. We said this on pregame. They could win it this year, right? Like, they very easily
Oh,
could
I
take
think
home
they
the
have a
title this
chance. I
year.
think the team's deep. They, like we said, they haven't played together very much, but
So, my question to you is then, in the grand scheme of things, is there a price you can put on perennial title contention? Because that's what the Heat are right now, outside of last year where they struggled, but that was like injuries, right? Like the Celtics, like the perennial title contenders, period, right? Like first seed in the East, led them to a finals appearance a couple years ago. They're dominating this year. And like you said, they're not even fully healthy and they're dominating. So that's scary. Max contract, like, and he's the leader of that, and it's not really close. So that's how I see it.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say like, all right, but they haven't won anything. They've been in the situation when like they were in the finals in the bubble.
Exactly.
But I just think to myself, if it was the Celtics, like what people would be saying, and I don't think it would be as well received. They would
I
they
think
would
it would
be
be.
putting a lot of weight on this season. Like they'd be like, if they don't get it done this year, like it's a failure. Like they're
Well,
paying all these guys a lot of money. They're only going to get older. I could just hear what the media would be saying about the team if it was the Celtics.
I disagree to an extent, and we don't have to spend too much time on if Jimmy Butler was a Celtic segment because it's pretty random. But
It
you
is
have
random, but thoughts I
you have
have.
Celtics fans begging all season for someone who cares and someone who hustles and someone who plays
No,
hard, and
I
Marcus
agree
does
with that.
that. But
That's not what I mean.
you know
What
what I'm
I
saying?
mean is like you said, you can't like put a price on perennial title contention, and like I feel
I
like
don't think you can.
well, the Celtics were close for a couple years, and all people do is say how they didn't do it. So
What'd you say?
that's they were they were contenders for 3 or 4 years straight, and then they didn't do
They were.
anything. Like they didn't get there,
Yeah.
and now all you hear about is how they fail. So if Miami doesn't win, you know, if the scripts were flipped, like if it was the Celtics, that's all you would be hearing about. Like if the from the
Yeah.
media, local media, not even just national people shitting on them,
But
like local.
I think the Heat, and again, it's all hindsight. On 2 years, maybe I'll look back on this thing of an idiot. I think the Heat for the next 3, 4 years are gonna be in that top four in the East without a doubt, right? Like you look at Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry, like, and the reason is, and
I
again,
don't
it's not a Heat,
know. I
not a Heat
they're
podcast.
getting
No, no,
old.
no. I know, but let me explain. Kyle Lowry's game ages well, right? You don't lose your playmaking chops. That's not like athleticism. It's not like whatever. It's not even shooting, which
Well,
you
getting
grow
to
over,
the
but you can
spots
still
is
be a playmaker.
athleticism. Drawing
Sure,
the
but
defense is
pure
athleticism,
pure
which
pure
goes into that.
vision pure
Oh,
vision,
vision doesn't go away.
playmaking, and shooting, which is what he does for them, and mentality, right? Championship experience, fine. Jimmy Butler, you can make an argument maybe his defense will decline, but that mentality won't. And the good thing about Miami is they have guys ready to step up and
They do.
replace that production. Bam Adebayo, young center. Tyler Hero's an all-star this year, right? There's an easy argument for that. He's playing phenomenal. They even have young guys below that. Omar Yurtsevic's a good center, right? Max Strus is younger. Duncan Robinson's like the prime of his career right now, and he's only 2 years in the league, right? They have guys ready to step up. And I think that's the key. You have that older generation that, by the end of their current contract might be declining and it might look like a bad contract, but people aren't going to be talking about it as a bad contract because they'll probably still be a good team because of those younger players. Like you look at Philadelphia, that Tobias Harris contract is one of the worst in the league right now because they're not the title contenders that people expect them to be. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
And the Russell Westbrook one, if they were the top of the East, no one would give a shit about his contract, right?
Well,
Because
that
they'd
was a
be
bad
good.
contract from the get-go.
Yes, yes. But then, I mean, at the same time, I'm not saying this is going to happen to Russell Westbrook. Everyone thought Chris Paul's contract was the worst in the NBA a couple years ago. Everybody, right? When he was on the Rockets that last year in
Yeah,
Houston, terrible contract. And now he's, perennial title contender with the Suns. Suns haven't even lost 10 games yet. They're ridiculous.
well,
So
good for them.
it's all about,
I
whatever.
wish
But
I knew that
anyways,
feeling.
back to the Celtics. Do you think Tatum's back now, or do you think this is another flash in the pan? Right, it's been
I think
inconsistent,
you need
but
to see it a little longer, but I think you've seen a lot more from this, especially coming off that huge slump. Like something clicked, right?
yeah.
Something
And
clicked. He's looking more confident. He's making early
do you know what he
shots. He's
said?
scoring
Do you know what he
early.
said after the game? He
Go
said
ahead.
that I think the 20 misses in a row was a blessing in disguise because I was forced to attack the paint so much, and now I can have a better balance of both. So, speaking to your desires, Sam.
Well, yeah, there you go. We'll do it. Keep doing it because he's done it well. Especially, I mean,
And
that
it's open.
Pelicans game
Yeah.
last week where he didn't make a three and still had 27 points was very impressive to me.
Mhm.
And
And
if
it'll open
what
up
he's
the
saying
shots
is
for him.
true,
Yeah.
he needs to continue to do that because he has struggled all season going to the basket. He really doesn't
Mhm.
ever look like he's going in strong. Now he
He
kinda
has
does.
though lately.
Now
He
now
has,
he's
yeah.
starting to kinda turn the corner on that, and I think that is the biggest eye opener, not the three-point shooting. It's
Yeah.
great that his threes are dropping, it's not always gonna happen, and it hasn't really happened all season, so seeing it kind of pick up a bit
It's not gonna
is
stay at this level.
nice,
This level is ridiculous, right? Like,
but
yeah.
like I said, the biggest positive is going to the basket. That's what I wanna see more of, not more threes.
Mhm.
It would be
For sure.
really bad if he started playing well now, right? And then he's like, "Oh, look at all these threes I can make. I'm gonna take more." No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no,
And
no, no.
I don't think it's
Please
gonna
no.
revert back to that because I think him driving to the hoop, and he said this, it opens up the outside for him, like, because people can't just worry about the step back that he does, which has looked clean in the last 2 games, but they have to guard him on the drive too, and he's been going strong, like you said, so, if he keeps that up,
I don't
I
like
think
his
this could be
trainer
the
though.
turnaround.
He
Drew
keeps he
Hamlin.
keeps talking on Twitter. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like what do you think? Like people are gonna be thrilled with him shooting 31% for the season at the time? And he's like, "Oh, like look at everyone now. Like, yeah, he
Yeah.
scored 51 points. Like, congratulations. Like he did what like
Hamlin.
he's playing now like how he should be playing. It took you
Hamlin's a
long enough.
personality. He's something. Yeah. I don't
Like
really
you're not in
care
the
about it.
league. Relax. Like, who are you? He trains all
I don't
these
really care.
guys.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care for that. I don't know.
I don't really care about it,
Do
but
your
it is
job,
what it
stay in the gym there, and leave everybody alone. Even though people,
Um,
like, blame him, and I don't completely get that either, like, I don't know. Tatum pays the guy, like, let him do what he wants
well, I think people blamed him because Tatum might have spent time training to
on
work
the
with
wrong
those
things.
to work for those calls that he wasn't getting, and now they
No.
just abandoned them in one off season. But
They should not be
anyways,
training about getting calls. That's a no-no. Can't be
anyways,
doing that.
Jalen's looked solid too. He scored 30 in the night as well. Good in tandem win. I mean, everyone was doing a little bit of everything. Shout out Grant Williams. He looks phenomenal too. Played great on defense, great in
Won you
shooting.
some money.
Still don't great
In the
get
first
why people
quarter,
hate on him.
you won
Yeah,
some
two
money for
threes.
me.
Sam's lock is Grant Williams over 1.5 threes, right? And perennial or
Yep.
daily lock. But
If they keep
I
putting it out there, keep betting it because I don't know why
yeah.
they don't change it. But
Mhm.
you know what's funny is they keep throwing that, Celtics 7-0 now when Tatum Brown both scored 30 apiece. I would love to know the all-time like NBA record for teams who have two players score 30 or more.
It's gotta be
Like it
high. It's
cannot
very
be
high.
very many losses there.
I can't imagine
There
it is
is
either.
no
I
way that
can
you
look.
could find that. I don't think.
There might be. Uh,
But that like is such like a I mean it's great like they're scoring 30 points apiece. Great. Yeah, awesome. But don't make it like well, I don't even know what to say. That's not like a stat like that's special. Like it could be anybody scoring 30 points apiece.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll Google it, but I don't know. I don't know. I
But
don't
it's
think that I can
great that
find
they
it.
are. It's not I'm not trying to be negative. It's just funny. Like that's like a stat that we keep seeing all around. It's like, well, yeah, like I sure hope they're winning. I
Yeah.
also thought to myself, like, that's like the kind of stat like they'll end up like with the one loss in like a game seven. Like that's when they'll decide that's like the game they'll lose.
Yeah. Of course, right? Of course. Uh Past that, I mean, we touched on Marcus Smart a little bit, but he was eligible to be traded on the 25th. So from now until the trade deadline this season, Marcus Smart can be traded. Although it's hard to make the case for trading him with the way he's playing. But as I'll continue to say, it's not a necessity, but it's always an option if you can find if there's a clear pathway to get better, and Marcus Smart needs to be in that trade, and it makes you a better basketball team because of it. You pull the trigger. He's not untouchable. Those guys are Tatum, Brown, and probably Robert Williams at this point. But he's making it tough to justify trading him with these two performances. But again, it's not untouchable. It's just unlikely, I would say. So that I don't know what you think, but
Yeah, like people are listening to this and they're like, he's had no points last game. What are you talking about? Yeah, but like that doesn't necessarily matter. Like you if you're saying that, then you're probably someone that says, why is he taking shots? Why is he shooting so much? So he only took like three shots on what is this? So this is Wednesday. So on Tuesday night, he only took 3 shots. What else do you want out
yeah,
of him? And he was pinging the ball around like nothing, hitting guys, making the right play, looked
he's
really great
great.
distributing. He's buying into that role and he's been doing it all season. He's slowly adjusting. He's playing like perfectly into that fit. The problem is how much money he makes, and if they decide they do want to make changes and reshape the roster around Tatum, Brown, and Rob Williams, his money makes up a large chunk of the non Tatum, Brown, Rob
And he
Williams
has
money.
value now because he's playing well. He
Yeah.
has value. So
So
he's not
I would
untouchable. He's not
have
untouchable.
I'd be very sad if they trade him, but if they trade him,
Me
they
too.
damn well better get something worth it back.
And
And
what is
I
that in
always
your
see
eyes?
these trades like it's Marcus Smart for, like Joe Schmo, and he's like average because people look at the stats and are like, oh, like he only averages this many points. And like,
Mhm.
what do you expect to get from him? And I don't know what the real market is. Like, I don't know how much you truly could get. but you
Mhm.
can't just give him up for nothing. He's too important to the team, in my opinion. And I think
Yeah.
that's it's he's such a polarizing player
Yeah.
because but I feel like most of the intelligent people that talk about the Celtics are on the side of the fence that we are on, where we feel like he's important to the team.
He is, but, like I'll continue to say, that doesn't mean he's untouchable, and I know our
No,
friend,
I
Andrew would
agree.
no.
I
Yeah.
agree, but you're gonna be under the microscope if you deal him.
Of course.
That better work, you know?
So what's the line then? Like, where's the line of trade players you would and wouldn't trade? Like, would you trade him for in a deal for John Collins?
Yeah, I would.
Sabonis?
Yeah, probably. I don't love
Um,
Sabonis though, like, I'm not, like,
I love
floored by it,
Sabonis. I really like
but if
Sabonis.
it's, like, not smart and not much else, yeah, I would, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. Like,
No.
the reason why I'm not, like, floored by the Sabonis thing is because I think they're gonna make you pay an arm and a leg for him, and I don't think he's worth an arm and a leg.
Hmm, I we can disagree. I wouldn't trade Rob for him, but I'd trade almost anybody else on the roster for him.
They're gonna
Uh,
want, like, a bunch, like, picks. I don't think he's worth, like, all these future picks. Now I say, like, I don't really care for picks, but, like, they're like a safety net if, like, your experiment here goes wrong. Like, you don't wanna be like the Nets, right? Where, they're better than the Celtics now,
well,
but
the Nets
they
figured it out.
yeah, you know, it's funny I say that, but, like, they really screwed themselves for a while. Like, it took them a while to get out of that hole
And they
because,
only
like,
got
they
out
did
of the hole because someone wanted to play there, so
yeah, because Kyrie wanted to go there and he brought
well,
KD.
actually, I'll give him credit. They developed their guys. D'Angelo Russell turned out well. They made good trades, blah blah blah. But you know what I'm saying? That
No,
that one
they
season,
had
yeah,
good players, but if they weren't New York, they wouldn't be any good right now.
yeah. Well,
That's the facts of it.
okay. Um, yeah,
Keep
Marcus
going.
Smart thing.
Bogdanovich, from Utah?
Mhm.
No, no. That's when I saw floated out there.
I don't like that one
I
either.
would lose my mind if that was, like, what was done.
He's not bad. He's a good player, but it's
He's not a
like
bad player. He's, like, what, 32?
31,
I
32, I think.
Is he a
Yeah.
good defender, Jack? That's, like
No,
I don't wanna sound like dummy because I don't know if he's a good defender. I know he can score. I know he can shoot. I know he's a
he's not
solid
a great
player.
defender.
Yeah,
He's
so,
not a great
like,
defender.
I don't know. I don't want him to just be sitting there, like, shooting
Well, you
threes.
need that though. You need that on the team. You need
Yeah, but you
shooters.
also need somebody like Marcus. So, like, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and
Well,
it's
no, no,
not
no.
really ample
I will
pay, in my
I will die
opinion.
on the hill that you don't need Marcus. Marcus helps. You don't need Marcus.
I
He
think you need
helps. He's
somebody
good.
like him.
Okay, but like him can be gotten for the minimum. You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't know about that. I think he's
So
a rare type of player.
okay, so what's
We've had
you
this
don't
many times before,
you
like
don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. And if you do, you need
yes,
it on
you
a
do.
very small scale. No, not for
It
$20
doesn't mean you
million. You
can't
don't.
get it in one of your main guys, like, okay, the great thing about KG is he had what Marcus has in him, but he was
Okay,
also,
so
like, an MVP candidate.
you're saying you need that for a championship is your
You
argument,
need
right?
that somebody has to have that.
Okay,
Somebody has to
Bucks.
be crazy.
Bucks.
Bucks, Drew
Yeah.
Holiday is a dog. He plays extremely hard defense. He's
Okay, Drew
not
Holiday's an all-star.
okay, great. That's not
And
what I'm
so
saying. You still have that on the team.
sure,
Tatum and
but
Brown are
you
all-stars, but they don't have that. You have to
okay.
get it from somewhere.
My point is, if you have it in one of your main 3 all-stars, great. If you don't, you can't pay $20 million for it. And,
Well,
this
wait,
is
what
again,
side of
this
the
is
fence are you on, Jack? You love him, but then
I do,
I
but
don't
I
know.
just I
You
love
think
him,
they
and I
shouldn't
think
be
he helps
paying
the
him.
team.
Now, I also think 20,000,000 is a lot, and it makes it really hard to keep him out of trade talks. But I
No,
also
my
think
point is I love him, he helps, don't give him away for nothing, but you don't need that for that price on a championship team. I don't believe that.
for
I
that
just don't.
price, I don't think you need it, but
And I'll continue to go down the line. Who
that's
won
why
it
they
before the
paid it.
Bucks? Lakers? Lakers. Who wasn't on the Lakers?
Well, as much as, like, he's like a whiner, LeBron, he turns it on, and he's like a freak
Okay,
like that.
fine. The year before that, what, Raptors? Raptors.
Raptors, Lowry,
All-star. Okay, year before that, Warriors. Draymond, all-star.
Draymond,
Right? Like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Go down, you can go down the line. Before that, Cavaliers, LeBron again,
But
right?
the point is
Well,
there is somebody with that crazy killer mindset on the team.
yes, but they're in all of your examples, they are the star player of the team. So at that point, the
And
argument
Draymond's
is
not the
okay,
star player. He
he's an
is a
all-star.
very important player, and he was an all-star. Was he an all-star the last run
Yeah,
they had
yeah,
with KD? I know
yeah.
he has been an all-star, but I don't know how often he's been an all-star.
I'm pretty sure he is a three-time All-Star.
3
16, 17,
times.
18. Yep.
Okay, so they won in 15, he was not an all-star.
Sure, but he was an All-Star caliber impactful player.
No,
Marcus
he
Smart's
is.
not an
I
All-Star
agree with
caliber
that.
impactful player,
I
right? And I'm
agree.
pretty sure how much let me what does Draymond make? Is he's not at a
He makes a good
max.
amount now. In 2015, he probably didn't make that much.
Yeah, he doesn't make a max right now. I wanna go through and see Draymond. Regardless, that's not important. My point is I don't think you need that on a championship caliber team, and if you don't have it in one of your star players and you still think you need it, you don't pay $20 million to do it because that severely restricts the way you put together the rest of your roster. And
It does
that's just my
restrict the roster, then that's, like, the reason why he's in all these trade talks.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
think it's very important to having a team, though.
And, okay, even if you wanna say that, it's not like the Celtics don't have other guys. Maybe it's not the same level as Marcus, but they have other guys who bring that similar energy and intensity,
The
or at
only
least
one that
have the
I feel like
potential to.
is Grant, and Rob too, but
Yes.
Rob is, like, quiet.
Rob's quiet.
But he
But
he
Grant,
he plays with a lot of energy.
there you go,
And
and you're not
Grant's
gonna sit
quiet
here
too,
and
but
tell me
he'll get in the dude's face, he's always diving on the floor.
exactly. So, my point is, realistically speaking, you trade Marcus, you lose that, right? You lose that energy, hustle, leadership, whatever. But you're not I can't be convinced that no one else on the team is going to step up in Marcus's absence because obviously somebody would,
Well,
right?
have you
And
seen it? Have you seen it when Marcus has been out this year? They've been horrible when he's out. Now, this is as is. This is as is with this team that's
Mhm.
mediocre. But, I mean, these guys on the team, when he's out, you really don't see it. That's the issue.
I guess. I just disagree with that notion that, oh, you need a hustle player to win a championship. You need a collective hustle grind mentality, sure, but you don't need a singular player who's paid that much money to be that. I just don't like that because I think it comes down to, a group collective thought process in a well-constructed team rather than, oh, this one player, heart and soul. Like, and I love that. This isn't me hating on Marcus. I love Marcus. You know, I love Marcus. I love what he does. I love what he brings. And yes, it's important, but I don't think it's like completely necessary. Helpful, awesome to have on the team. Absolutely. Completely necessary to win a championship. No. So
Well, we'll disagree.
that's fine. You mentioned Robert Williams too. Jason Tatum gave Robert Williams a shout out after the last game, saying, "I love playing with Rob." Basically, just said, you can drive into the lane, throw it up, do that. Robert Williams today said, they always get on me. They say you got to put that down, even when it's like 10 feet above my head. So the dynamic with Robert Williams is really starting to come along. He's playing almost 30 minutes a game. You're seeing him play. I think he's played in like 37 to 45 games, something like that. I think he missed a stretch because COVID. And I mean, everyone missed a stretch because of COVID, but
And
I
also,
mean, Robert Williams.
birth of his kid.
Yes, yes, that too. But I mean, Rob's here, and I would argue he's here to stay. Like I still
No, he's
hear.
definitely here to stay. They, shit, I don't know what the source was on it today, but
I
there
did.
was, like, something
I
where it was said, like, teams are asking about him and they have no interest. No
I
interest in
know
giving him
because
up.
I'm the one who tweeted it out. Robert
That's
Williams
why.
has received trade interest around the league, but Boston sees him as part of the core next to Tatum and Brown. This was from Mike Scotto of Hoops Hype via Bleacher Report, or hat tip
There
to
you
Bleacher
go.
Report.
Well, I knew
So
I saw it somewhere in somebody chat.
yeah, but they see him as a part of the core, and I think that's rightfully so. I still am hearing some like media pundits out there saying, you can't trust Rob. He's inconsistent. Trade him while his value is high.
I
And
don't
I
think
don't
that's
get.
true. I don't think
I
that's
just
true anymore.
I agree with you. I agree with you because like Marcus, uh, there are times where Robert Williams' impact isn't felt in the box score. And again, I don't want to get the reputation of I hate Marcus because I love Marcus and I love Marcus, but it's just that one aspect that Marcus happens to fit into that I disagree with. But anyways, uh Robert Williams' impact doesn't always show up in the box score. Look at that Charlotte game as the prime example. They were getting to the paint with ease. Like they didn't care. They were driving into
Right.
the paint. They were making plays. If Robert Williams in there, it's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
Celtics
They're
are
scared to
rebounding
drive.
better on the other
He
end.
just has to
Yep,
be
they're
on the
scared to
floor and they don't
drive.
want to drive on him.
Exactly. And it's like the gravity effect of Duncan Robinson, except it's Robert Williams in the paint. He just affects it by being there. And that's the beauty of Robert Williams. And now you're starting to see it in the box score. It's 17 rebounds the other night against the Kings, right? He's blocking shots. He's averaging almost 2 blocks a game. His impact is incredible. And I think it would take a monumentous trade package to get Robert Williams off this team, and I don't know what that is, and I don't think it's out there right now, so I think he stays, and I'm gonna die on that hill. I think he's a crucial, and I wouldn't trade him for Sabonis. I see that a lot too. Not a chance. Not a
Well,
chance.
I wouldn't trade him for Sabonis, but I really don't think that highly of Sabonis.
Yeah. Why is that though? And this is off topic again, but
I
why
just
don't you
don't
like
think if you
Sabonis?
get it has nothing to do with like thinking he's like a good player or not a good player. It's more of like if he's like on the team, I don't think it all of a sudden makes them like special.
I do. I
I
think it would
think if
help a
they get him
lot.
on the team, it's going to cost them a lot, which doesn't particularly matter because they're not going to win anything this year, and to win, they're going to have to move parts around quite a bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's like that. He's not going to make you anything crazy.
I really like him. I think he would help with playmaking more than anything. Obviously, he'd help with rebounding.
Yeah, but
You
like
put
you
him in the high
have that.
post.
You have now Horford hasn't been very good
He's a
overall this year.
better he's a
He's
better, more talented younger Horford.
yeah, but also Rob Williams is like fantastic at that, which is a reason why you shouldn't trade him for Sabonis. But he's really a great passer.
Yeah, and I think there's an easy argument to say the better fit would be like a Robert Covington in that Horford spot, someone who can defend well and shoot. I'll buy that. Maybe that's a better fit next to Rob.
Hell, even
And he
Grant is at this
Yeah,
point,
hey,
right?
there
If
you
they get
go.
rid of,
Yeah,
I still support like starting Horford and like I think
it's
their
been good.
rotations have
Yeah.
been fine lately.
Mhm.
Like I don't, and they don't really need him to score. It's really great when he does and makes a three, however, whenever. But I think having him out there is good, and then staggering them throughout the game, making sure Cantor's not on the floor
Yeah,
is a big deal.
yeah. They won
But
by
Grant,
50 the first time they didn't, right? The
yeah,
first time Freedom didn't play, they won by 50. Coincidence? I mean,
yeah.
no. There
Oh
you go.
man.
I don't know. So one of the last things, and we got a little time left, but I think this will take a little while. Does these 2 wins change your outlook on the rest of the season? Obviously, they played a lot better. Does it change the way you perceive the rest of the year and how they should approach the trade deadline?
Not yet. Beat somebody good. That's like my simple response to that is beat somebody good because we had this conversation last week
I think so.
before they played Charlotte, and we were talking about wow, they just won like 5 out of 6.
It was after they played
I think the
Charlotte.
Chicago win was a good win because even though they
It
missed
was
a few
after they played
guys.
Charlotte because I said, "I'm not gonna let this one loss taint my view of how well they've been playing,"
Oh,
and they
that's right,
lost
it
to
was. And
Portland
then
too.
I was saying, well, like you failed the exam because they did.
Yep.
Then they went out and crapped themselves against Portland, but they bounced back from that.
They did.
It's just they haven't put it all to work when the exam comes up. Like, is Atlanta going to be your big test? I don't think so. It's tough to play
Miami.
there on the road. Miami's coming up. So that's
Mhm.
where I'm going to have to judge it. And I think Brad should judge it too. Me telling
And
him how to do
my
his
thing
job.
is, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be upset and say they failed the exam if they lose to Miami. I'll be upset and say they failed the exam if they shit themselves against Miami. You know what I'm saying? Because
Well,
if
if
you
they
lose
play
to
like they did
Miami,
against Charlotte, we have reason to be upset. I think
yes.
Miami's a good team, and I've never like shied away from saying that to you
But if they
on
play
this
well and
or the
still lose,
pregame.
I'm not gonna like be upset. I'm not gonna be pissed because, like you
Yeah,
said, Miami's the best of the best.
if they compete and don't lose the same
Yeah.
way they've lost all year, then yeah. Then you can say, look at this, like they're making progress. But if they go out there and give a bunch of offensive rebounds or blow a lead or turn the ball over a lot or chuck a bunch of threes and lose, then all of this is meaningless. Like, congrats, you beat Sacramento. Congrats, you beat Washington. Like, fantastic. Beat somebody who matters. They haven't beat somebody who matters all month. I can't even maybe Phoenix if you really want to count that one. That was like really, I think it was Phoenix's first game on the East Coast road trip, and it was a matinee. So it's really like 10 a.m. Phoenix time, and they were playing the Celtics. Like, congrats on that one. Aiton didn't play. Ah, man, I
Are
can't
you
tell
talking
you
about
the
this
last
season? I mean, they
like
walloped Miami earlier this year.
no, I'm talking about the most recent one. I know they've had meaningful wins this season. I think the Lakers one was a good one. They beat
I mean,
Philly.
I'll look through. The Bulls one was all right. They weren't fully healthy, but it
That
was a good win.
that was an all right win, but they weren't fully healthy.
The
Um,
Suns
I
win was a
can't.
good one.
Yeah,
That was
but
and
there's
that
like
game wasn't even too
caveats to
long
all
ago.
these wins.
I mean, they beat the Bucks, but
The Bucks
Middleton
is the
went
last good
down.
win. There you go.
But Middleton went down in the middle of the game. So
That's still like a game where like that was a good win because they
all right.
blew them out. Like
Yeah, they won by
When
14.
Middleton went down, the game was like over.
They beat the Sixers earlier this season too.
Yep, that was another good one. Like they've had good wins sprinkled in, but in terms of like, okay, they're trying to turn the corner now. The trade
Well,
deadline's coming
okay.
up. You're trying to make a decision. They haven't had a good win in a very long time since
At the same
Milwaukee last
time,
month.
you're saying they haven't had a good win in a long time, and you're saying, "Oh, it doesn't count because they were injured." In the same breath, then they haven't really had a chance to have a good win in your eyes either. Do you know? Like they've had some sprinkled in there, but like, you know what I'm saying? If you're saying, "Oh, that doesn't count because they were injured, the Bulls were injured, and the Suns team was injured," all right. So then when's their chance to get the good win if the good teams are injured? You know that's also
Well,
kind of
they haven't
bullshit.
really played any good teams.
Okay, fine. Then don't complain that they haven't had one in a while.
Well, no,
It's like
they play like a Charlotte is probably the best team they've played in a while. Like this Chicago's pretty close, but they had a lot of like I think it was 5 of their 7 top scorers out or 7 of their top scorers out. Something like that. Like they were missing a lot of important pieces in that
okay,
game.
fine, but then I'll play devil's advocate. They were missing Smart and Rob during the two of their starters during the Charlotte game.
Yeah, they've been missing a lot of people, and you're
Mhm,
absolutely right. But there have
mhm.
been games where they crap themselves against bad teams too. I don't know. And they were without Smart and Rob when they beat New Orleans, which was a bad team. I
Yeah,
don't
New Orleans
did
a very
Rob
different beast
did
than
Rob
Charlotte.
play against Chicago?
I
I think he might have.
believe so. I think so because he only missed 2
Smart
games.
didn't.
He did play against Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, Celtics have been without their guys too, but I don't know. Put it together.
Yeah, and maybe they
You
will. Maybe this
it
is a
doesn't
stretch.
mean they haven't been playing better, but they've been playing bad teams. So
I hate that
I'm
argument. I
not going to
hate it.
put too much weight into it.
I think that's
The
stupid.
question is, do I think they're turning a corner? The answer is no until they prove it.
All right. Well, I think it's less so my thing
Let's
is,
not sit here and act like that Charlotte game wasn't a winnable game, regardless of who was on the floor.
yes, it was a winnable game, but my thing is beating the Kings by 10, fine, win the game. Beating the Kings by 53, like, I don't care who you're playing, bad team or not, beating any NBA team by over 50 points is absolutely absurd. Absolutely
Well,
ridiculous.
it is.
Even Washington, beating a fully healthy Washington team by 29, was it? Like, ridiculous, right? Like, beat that Washington team by 5, sure, whatever. 29 and then 53 back to back, at the very least, if Tatum can continue to even shoot average from here, I think the Celtics have a real good chance to go on a run because even like you look at their schedule, Hawks are not a very good team. Pelicans are not a very good team. They have the Heat, and then they have revenge against the Hornets, and then the Pistons and the Magic. They win 4 out of 6 of those games, and they're what? What is that? One, two, three, four, five,
4 out of 6,
three
so they're one
three
above.
games
So
above 500. 3 games
yeah,
above 500 at the
yep.
point. And if they beat Charlotte in that stretch, they're right close to catching Charlotte in the standings. They're only a game and a half out of the 7th seed, and they're only 4 games out of the 6th seed. Like, they have a chance to make up some ground here, and
No, they absolutely do. They
I'm
do. The
not gonna
East is very close.
my
What
point is
I'm
I'm not
saying
gonna
is these 2 games, I'm not saying it doesn't mean they couldn't go on a run, you know, but they aren't yet.
okay,
They
fine, but I don't like to shit on them saying, "Oh, that doesn't matter, it was a bad team." Because that's bullshit. It's not about the team you're playing in my eyes, it's about how well you play on the court as you're like, individually, and they have looked phenomenal in the last 2 games as a unit,
they've looked
regardless of the
much
opponent.
better, but
Regardless
we
of the
will
opponent.
have to see what they do when the test
Sure,
comes along.
that's fine, but I'm not gonna, mitigate, or that's not even the right word. I'm not gonna dumb down how well they played just because of their opponent, because they played ridiculously well.
I mean,
That's all I'm saying.
these last 2 games have been great, but who knows? Maybe the Charlotte game lit a fire under them. I hope it did.
I
I
don't think
want
it's
them to
that.
win as bad as anybody.
I think it's just having Marcus back, realistically speaking. I think it's having, the fully healthy
It
lineup back
definitely
again
helps
is
to have
huge.
Marcus on the floor.
And
Absolutely, it
Rob
does,
back
and
is
Rob.
huge.
It
Mhm.
absolutely does, but, I
And
mean,
the fact that Tatum isn't shooting like a JV player. That definitely helps too.
I hope
You know.
I hope it all continues, but
Yeah.
we it's too early to tell if it's going to be the turnaround is what I'm saying.
All
Doesn't
right.
mean it can't be,
We'll check back in after the Hawks
but
game.
so far, we've had, like, a couple of these conversations before, and it's turned out not quite.
Mhm.
Not yet.
And I think the Hawks game will be a good test too. Obviously, it's not the Heat, but they've won 4 in a row.
They're a good
Always
team at
struggle in
home, and
Atlanta.
they'll be in Atlanta. So
Yeah,
it's fair. But if they lose it, it's really bad.
it's
Like
not great.
it's gonna take a lot of wind out of these last 2 games if they lose that game.
Mhm.
It's a big game.
The only loss I'll accept against that Hawks teams is something like the Utah game that happened earlier this season. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
saying?
the Utah game, it is what it is. I mean, that was, like, remarkable to watch.
Yeah. Always happens in Utah too, right? It's always how it
That's a
goes.
tough that you almost always get a good game when they go there.
Yeah. Well, it's debatable if that was a good game because there's not much the
That was
Celtics
a
can
good game. That was a crazy game. I mean,
my
they
point
both
is
had over 130 points. Utah's shooting the lights out. Celtics are somehow hanging around.
yeah, there's nothing you can do against that Utah
Were they
team that
up in
can
that
shoot like
game?
that.
I don't
I
remember.
don't
Did they
know.
blow a lead
I
in
don't
that game?
remember. I don't even remember. I don't even remember if I watched that game as closely as I should have, to be honest. I just remember it being ridiculous. Anyways, um, I have written down here the East is close because you brought that up again. The East is really close this year.
Really close.
Jam packed. Like realistically speaking, you have the Raptors, Celtics, Wizards, Knicks, Hawks. All of those teams are like based on this season and last season should be playoff teams, right? Like or at least play-in teams. They should
Some
be
of them
play-in
should
teams.
be, yeah.
Most of them should be playoff teams. Two of those teams are gonna miss the play-in altogether, which is
Good,
crazy to think about. You know what I'm
good.
saying? Like all of those are quality teams. There's just a lot of talent in the Eastern Conference this year. Like realistically, 12 teams that if they made the playoffs, you wouldn't be shocked. Do you know what I'm saying? That's crazy that it's like that because it's it's not
Well, the
like that out
Cavs have been
west.
a big surprise this year.
Yep.
Washington's been they had been better than a lot of people
hmm
probably thought.
Charlotte's been good.
Toronto's been better than I probably thought they would be. Charlotte's probably right
Charlotte's
around
stepping
where
up.
I thought they would be. I thought they'd be solid. Like, I didn't discount them.
Yeah, but compared to last year, like they've made a jump. They made a bit
No,
of
they've definitely made a jump.
yeah.
I
That's my
didn't
point. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it should have been expected that they would.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man, who else has been, like, kind of a well, Chicago's
The
definitely better
Bulls,
than I thought
the
they would be.
Bulls, yeah, the Bulls are really good. The Bucks have turned it around once they got healthy. The Heat are really good. Obviously, the Nets are going to have success. Sixers have turned it around since that little slump when Embiid was out. The Knicks have been the
Not been
Knicks.
good.
No,
There you go. Who could have told you that? I don't know. Who would have told you that the Knicks wouldn't have been that
well,
good? Well, I don't
it's
know.
not even the reason the Knicks aren't even that good is not even. I don't even put most of the blame on Fournier and Kemba. It's Julius Randle stinks this
Yeah,
year.
he's, like, not good. Well,
He's
that's
just
what I
not
was
making
saying at the
sense.
beginning of the year. It wasn't really about those guys. It's like, okay, the Celtics, like, have better players around them last year than the Knicks do, and the Celtics weren't very good. So what makes you think the Knicks are gonna be any better? And here we
Mhm.
are, and looks like that, might have been a little bit right. Same with the Lakers, they're bad. Warriors are
Lakers are not good.
good. I mean,
Grizzlies. What about the Grizzlies, man? That's
Grizzlies are
crazy.
out of nowhere. Good for Ja.
That's super cool. I love that. I mean, the Mavericks are making a jump. The Nuggets are getting up there too. The Timberwolves being in the mix is a
Nuggets
bit
are
weird.
kinda funny, like, they were struggling early this year, right? Like, they had a
Yeah, a
lot of
little bit.
guys out, and they're still, like, playing. Jokic is a beast, man.
Jokic is different. That dude is something special,
Jokic is
man.
fire. He just runs around like a big, like, oaf out there and throws passes around, makes fadeaways
He's
over dudes, wins
ridiculously
MVPs.
talented, absurdly
Oh, he
talented.
rules.
Jokic.
His brothers
Mhm.
rule,
I
right?
mean, you're talking about playing Facundo Campazzo over 20 minutes a night, and you're above 500.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And shout out Campazzo. I love Campazzo. He's cool. But anyways, that's all I really had for today. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to bring up before we get out of
Yeah,
here, but
one thing, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but there were some reports about Justin Holiday today being available for
ah,
a free price of second round picks.
yeah. See, I don't hate it. Obviously, it's more shooting and whatever. But that to me, that's like a Bryn Forbes thing, right? Like he's on the books for this year and next year. But realistically speaking, is the difference between Romeo Langford and Justin Holiday a championship? You know what I'm saying? Like that's just where I'm at. The difference
It's
between
not, and I tend to lean your way on this right now because I'm starting to kind of be interested in these younger guys. I think
and it
Romeo has looked really a lot better
mhm.
shooting lately. Neesmith has
Neesmith
given you
showed
pretty good
flashes,
minutes. Pritchard
flashes.
screws around, makes some threes,
My
looked
my
pretty good
my
in
thing
garbage time.
is if the Celtics were like 5, 6 games above 500 looking to make a push, get Justin Holiday. Sure,
Oh,
he's an
that's what I
upgrade. Like
mean.
But right now,
Exactly what I mean. Exactly what I mean about earlier when we were talking about like turning the corner, right? Like
yeah,
they haven't showed you enough this month, a month where they really should be bulldozing everybody, and they really haven't to make you say, okay, let's buy at the deadline. And who
yeah.
knows? Maybe they do buy at the deadline, but probably not small if they're going to buy.
Mhm. You wanna go over where we're at in our tallies now? A few more games in?
Yeah, let's see. What have they? Let's see. I had 13-2. They've lost Spurs, Knicks, lost. Let's see. After the Knicks, I went.
Imma
So they
put
lost
X's and
to.
checks next to what you got wrong. Okay,
Oh my god, who they
wrong,
lose to after the
wrong,
Knicks?
correct. Pacers, they lost to Philly.
Lost to Philly. That was one I was right about.
You were, I was wrong. They beat Chicago, they beat New Orleans, they lost to Charlotte, they lost to Portland, they
Yes.
beat Washington, they beat Sacramento. So you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They've played 12 games so far. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You're 7-5 in your predictions right now.
That's no
So
good.
I was wrong about that game. I was right about that game. Right about that game. Right about that game. Right about the game. Wrong. Wrong. Right. Right. Wrong. Right. So I think I am 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm 8-4. So we're around the same thing. You ended this. You wanted them to be 13-2. Right
Yes.
now, what are they right now?
Well,
Right there.
I only predicted one loss so far. So they are
Dub. Right
something
now
in
they're
four.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah, I think they
4,
might be 8
5.
and 4.
They're 7-5.
That's bad. That's so bad.
Not ideal. I had
They
them going 10.
they hate being above 500.
They do. They do. You had them going 13-2. I had them going 10-5 in this stretch. So I still have a chance to be right if they sweep these last 3 games.
Yes, you do.
But we'll see. We'll see if I'm
This is
correct or
bad
not.
that it's so bad that they're 7-5 right now.
Not great. Not great. Well, not great, but if you take away those first 2 wins, which I'm not saying you have to because you include in the stretch, but in the last what is that, 10 games, they're 7-3. That sounds a lot better, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
if you put the right cutoff on, okay, maybe they're starting to turn the corner, then it sounds a lot better. Because San Antonio game and that first Knicks game, I think you kind of got to lump into the old Celtics, and then the new, starting to get better Celtics. You start with that first Knicks game, and that's where you start seeing the progression. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? I'm not trying
Yeah.
to make excuses, but like
I mean,
in
they
terms
shouldn't
of
have
where you
dropped
start
either
to
of
see.
those games. They should be,
I,
you know,
I
they
agree with
shouldn't
you,
have
but
lost to Charlotte either
I know. My point is, if you
or
look at the
Portland.
beginning of the season where they were playing like that versus these last 10 games where you can see the wheels starting to click a little bit better. And I'm not, this
I
isn't me
stand
saying,
by my picks.
I know.
They shouldn't have lost
I,
either of those games. They shouldn't have lost to Charlotte, and they shouldn't have lost to Portland.
of course
Philly's the
not. Of
only one
course
that's
not.
acceptable, even though they really didn't show up for that one, and it's still like
Yeah.
bad that they didn't come to play in a rivalry game. I thought that'd be a close loss, not a blowout. But I
Yeah.
stand
My
by.
point is, with what we saw earlier this season, I'm happy with the progress. I'll take it. And it looks like they're moving forward to getting better. And I don't
I
think
hope
you
you're more
can,
right than I am.
I don't think you can look at it in the vacuum of this season either. Because realistically speaking, Tatum Brown still 23, 25, Rob still 24. You got what, 3 more years, 2 more years of this before you got to make that decision on Jalen's second contract. And even then, I can't imagine them like not wanting to sign him again. So I'm I'm okay as long as by that year you're starting to like you're competing in the East again. And I think they're showing signs of getting towards that direction, even if it is a short, term
If you really
growth.
want some silver lining,
At
if
least you're not
you're
the
think
Lakers.
no,
At
well,
least you're not
that
the Lakers.
yeah, of course. But if you wanna think about, like, their futures, right, like, their contracts and stuff, if you're gonna be bad during these contracts that they're currently on, now is the time because they're not thinking about putting, their name on another one. So, if you're good towards the end of their contract, they're more likely to stay. And if you think that's the way they're trending, like Jack does, I mean, I'd imagine they're gonna get better. I think they're, still underperforming. Like, I think there's a way they can figure out their issues. Maybe not necessarily this year, but there's plenty of room for improvement, and I don't know if they can get worse. Like, this feels like rock bottom, and they're over 500. So there you go.
Yeah, I think they're fine. I'm looking up. I'm optimistic right
Like
now, but
all of us fans like complain a lot about this team, and it's deservedly so. Like they're underperforming for sure, but I mean they're a game over 500, which a lot of teams would take in a heartbeat. Like Sacramento would take
over
that.
their
Oh
current
yeah,
situation. Yeah. Anyways, That's all I had for today. Again, anything else you want to throw in?
No, I'm all right. Um, I will say I drank like a hot coffee today at work,
Yeah.
and I burned my throat for the first time I think ever. Because I took a sip
Burned
and it
your
was
throat.
hot. Yeah, I took a sip and it was hot, and I obviously cannot spit out the drink. It's burning my tongue, so I instinctively swallow it, and then it burns my throat. No good. I typically don't drink hot
Yeah,
beverages because I like to be able to
I do.
eat and drink fast, and you can't do it.
I love me my hot coffee. Anyways,
I don't even drink
uh,
coffee usually.
different,
Okay.
different beasts. Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the From the Rafters podcast. Check us out at bannertownusa.com. Check out Guy Boston Sports. Thank you to them as always. Check us both out on Twitter if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. You can see our Twitter handles below our faces. You can see me on Twitter at Jack Simone NBA. Sam is at Sam LaFrance NBA, like he'll tell you in a second. Bannertown USA for us on Twitter as well. And yeah, sorry to steal your thunder, Sam. I just got in a pregame rhythm that I usually get on.
No,
So I'll
it's
let
all
you
right. They can listen
close
to it
it out.
again. See, Jack and I share the outro now because on the pregame, which you can watch before every game, 30 minutes on Guy Boston Sports YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We share it to Bannertown Facebook. We retweet it. If you really want to see us, you can. He does the outro. And in these, I do the outro. It goes like this. If you enjoyed the show, thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe, follow us if you're listening on one of the apps there. You can follow Jack at Jack Simone NBA. You can follow Bannertown at Bannertown USA. And you can follow me at Sam LaFrance NBA. That's our show for today.
Taco, come on. Taco.